You are here for the Interpreting Eclipses webinar series, and I'm Chris White, the Eclipse Coordinator with Earth to Sky Interagency Partnership. Interpreting Eclipses is a part of Through the Eyes of NASA eclipse effort. Earth to Sky's national team is growing, as you can see. We have our fearless leaders, Genevieve, Anita, and John, who've been here for a very long time. Our interns, Lucy and Mahmoud and Pat, which I think a few of them have actually left us, myself, John, and Jeff. And we have a new team member, Devin, who I don't have pictured here because she's brand new. We are here to bridge the gap between NASA science and the interpretation and education community and support the development of excellent science communication. You can join our list at earthtosky.org. Our next events coming up after today is Climate in Your Pocket on August 18th, an Interpreting Eclipses kind of planning meeting on August 28th, and Climate Conversations on September 7th. And today we are fortunate to have Ranger Rachel Taylor with us from Petroglyphs National Monument. She has a BA in Liberal Arts from, don't know why that advanced. She has a BA from, sorry about that, Liberal Arts from St. John's College and a master's in Natural Resource and Environmental Law from the University of New Mexico. She previously worked as a park ranger at Cape Hatteras National Seashore and a community volunteer ambassador at Petroglyphs National Monument. And she has recently joined the team as a park guide and is looking forward to helping discover new interpretive programs and products for the monument. Let me stop sharing, and Rachel, feel free to share your screen.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you to everyone who joined. As Chris said, I'm Rachel. I'm a park guide at Petroglyph, and today we're going to be talking about audience-centered engagement techniques, which is also called ACE. So I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen for PowerPoint. And let me go back some slides. There we go. All right. So Petroglyph National Monument is in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where we are pretty fortunate. We have a lot of sun all year round, but we do have the monsoons around this time, so we do get some rain. And so our park really, in the Southwest, we focus a lot on the cultural aspect, but also the desert landscapes. And so I'm going to talk a little bit today about how the audience-centered techniques can be used at your site, and then some of the examples that we're doing here at Petroglyph. So for eclipses, that's what we're talking about today. And these are some of the things that I'm going to discuss. So first of all, what are your visitors seeking? What are they coming to your site for? Why are you having a viewing party or an event at your site that is going to draw visitors in? And then some of the elements of interpretation, just kind of general things to know, and then discovering the story in your resources. So every public land or museum, library, every place that you're coming from has something to offer that's unique to your site. And then finally, what are your visitors going to walk away with? So there's the tangible things and there's the intangible. So a little bit about ACE. The audience-centered engagement techniques are all about the audience. So it's just one of many tools that interpreters can use to support the visitors and how they build connections to these special places like national parks or museums. And it's the belief that the audience's perspective can contribute to the story and the value of that site as well. So what are your visitors seeking? Why are they coming to your site to view the solar eclipse? These are some reasons that I thought of that people might be coming to your site or to Petroglyph, and that includes safety, education, and interpretation, memories, and connection to others. So I'm going to talk about safety first, and that's just because your visitors can't enjoy the eclipse or learn if they don't feel safe. So that's why I say at the bottom, your visitors should feel safe at all times, and they need that in order to enjoy the solar eclipse viewing. So as we all know, you can't be safe watching an eclipse without some kind of protection to your eyes. So you want to either provide them with something free, preferably, or you can sell the eclipse glasses. So Petroglyph is kind of going to be doing both. We have them for sale in our gift shop, but we also will probably be providing some free ones. You can also provide crafts that are going to be a safe way to enjoy the eclipse. So you can build pinhole projectors, the little NASA punch cards, if you've seen those, virtual streaming and viewing parties. Petroglyph is going to be hosting like a live stream the day of the eclipse at our amphitheater. So folks that don't want to watch the eclipse with glasses or a pinhole projector the whole time, they can sit down and watch the eclipse progress. So like I said, that should be provided at your site, or an opportunity to maybe buy a more collectible item, something like that. And that's kind of the first step to viewing the eclipse. You also want to consider, medical emergencies, especially if you're a big site expecting a lot of people. And even if you're not, Petroglyph isn't very big, but we are in the city of Albuquerque. And so, that's a kind of a blessing and a curse. A lot can happen in a big city, but we also have the staff. So we have our staff at the park who are trained with CPR and first aid. We also have the law enforcement rangers who have a little bit more advanced training. And then we also have Albuquerque police and fire departments. So making sure that you have communicated with your staff or maybe the town's police or fire departments is going to kind of help you provide that safety level to your visitors who are coming. Kind of in that same vein, you might need to take traffic and parking and overcrowding into consideration. And like I said, Petroglyph is pretty small. We don't have the facilities for large crowds. So when our parking lots fill up, we're gonna kind of lock the gate, and that's all that we can accommodate. So that's something to take into consideration at your site. And then finally, kind of including all these things, you're going to want to have a plan in place in case something does happen. And so that includes an incident command system, which is like a safety document that maybe not all, but a lot of your coworkers kind of collaborate on, and so that you know exactly who to contact in certain situations. And then finally, this goes into, you can't enjoy the eclipse without feeling safe. You want to create a safe and inclusive environment at your site so that everyone can enjoy their experience. And that might look differently for different people. So, there's different activities that you can do for vision impaired visitors. One thing that Petroglyph has to keep in mind, and a lot of the sites in the Southwest, a lot of parks out here have to keep in mind, is the indigenous populations, because solar eclipses are not always seen as a good thing. So you have to just keep that in mind for the way you present and the way that you have these sources available to everyone. So safety is the first step in order to have a great experience at your site. And then, of course, education.
I sure do. Mute that. Oh, just one? Okay, okay. Yeah, there you go.
Education and interpretation at your site. Obviously, that's what we're going to be providing. So I just have a famous quote by Freeman Tilden here. The chief aim of interpretation is not instruction, but provocation. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later. But basically, the way I read that as an interpreter for a national park is that, a lot of people are going to ask you very direct questions. How is this happening? They want to know the science behind a solar eclipse. And of course, we can tell them, maybe as best to our knowledge that we can. But we also want to give them the opportunity to experience and learn for themselves. So if you're there watching the eclipse and they might ask, okay, what's happening? You might say, well, take a moment, watch the eclipse and, make maybe your best guess at what's happening. Because some people might just not know. I think that's something to consider is that your audience is going to have a wide range of knowledge, from someone, this might be their first eclipse. Maybe you might see a lot of children who have no idea what's going on. And then you might have people that are well experienced in this field. So that being said, this is, an amazing scientific event and that everyone should be able to enjoy it. And so, you can talk to them about astronomy. That's a great kind of segue into astronomy or science in general. But you also want to keep in mind that this is also a moment where they can reflect. And for some, it might be very spiritually significant. And that's something that we can't just tell people. That's something that has to be experienced by them. And so we can't just give everyone the answers. Let me tell you how you're feeling about this. We don't want to do that. We want to allow them an opportunity to feel what they're going to feel and to kind of reflect on the experience. So an example about petroglyph and kind of petroglyphs in general, this is the Eclipse petroglyph from Chaco Culture National Historical Park. But one thing that we maybe don't want to say is just give them the answers. So we could say the ancestral Puebloans carved petroglyphs depicting the sun because it was a common element in their lives and it held deep spiritual meaning. That would kind of give them the answers. Your visitors might say, okay, and they might walk away. Versus asking them questions, engaging them, engaging their curiosity. So you might want to say, why do you think the ancestral Puebloans chose to carve certain images? What's the significance in them? And would you make one representing an eclipse? If so, why? Why would it be so important to you that you would spend hours, days designing and chipping away at a rock to depict something like this? And what would it look like? Would it look a lot like this petroglyph at Chaco? Or would it take on a totally different appearance, especially for the annular solar eclipse that we're preparing for? The Ring of Fire would be a really cool petroglyph. So you just want to engage kind of their thoughts on the subject and not just directly tell them exactly what maybe they want to hear. So another thing at your site is that people are going to expect to make memories, positive memories, because they're powerful. They can invoke some of our strongest feelings. You can think back to when you were a child or a young adult and maybe something kind of shaped your want to explore science more or to go into a conservation field. So memories can be really powerful, and your site could be a positive memory in a child's life or in anyone, young or old. And those positive experiences might bring those visitors back to your site. So if you're kind of looking for an opportunity to get your site on the map or just get it to a broader audience, this might be the opportunity for that. Another way to kind of capture memories is to take photographs of the visitors enjoying the eclipse. So, I have this picture of a guy taking a photograph with his camera, but if you look to the first picture, we've got a couple of past staff members who were enjoying the last annular solar eclipse. And they're wearing their eclipse glasses, so they're being safe about it, and they're enjoying it. You can see some smiles, maybe some wonder kind of looks on their faces. And so that's really important too, to maybe offer to visitors, hey, can I take a photo of you and your family enjoying the eclipse with your phone, and just kind of ask them if that's okay. And that's also a good opportunity to remind them that they can't take photos of the sun or the eclipse unless they have that special lens. So that's another kind of safety opportunity for both you and the visitor. And then your site is unique. So, the memories that people have at Petroglyph are going to be different from the ones at a history museum or a park or a library. These are all going to be different. So kind of play on that and use it. The activities that you offer should reflect something about your site to make that experience unique and memorable. So I know there's a lot of words on this page, but I'll just kind of go over it in a couple different slides. So people are also coming to your site to build connections with others. So I've heard the phrase that this is a we eclipse and not a me eclipse, because they're looking for a shared experience, whether it's, with people they don't know, or maybe it's a big group, a big family group that's coming to your site. But either way, they want to experience it with more people than just standing in their backyard looking at it. And so these connections can be built in a few different ways. And these are kind of just my personal ideas of connection. So participation, that's kind of a key one, is that participating in something together really, it brings people together, it really connects them. So craft activities, they can involve kids, they can involve the adults, sometimes like games or science experiments. Those are all ways that you can participate in something and make those connections that you might not necessarily have otherwise. And then provocation, using that word again from Freeman Tilden, just helping the visitors kind of spark conversations or those connections with each other over a shared experience, or maybe just something new that they learn. They might turn to the person next to them and say, I never knew that. And they might say, yeah, neither did I. And it just helps build those kind of connections, which goes into the next one, positive and personal. You want to make the positive and personal connection with as many people as possible. And so that might mean, just greeting them and handing them a pair of glasses, or that might be interpreting something about your site. And, you just want to make sure that that personal connection really comes out with your visitors as you connect them to your site and your site to them. And so this kind of goes into it a little bit more. Basically, Petroglyph is going to be having a little bit of each of these things. So we're going to be making ceremonial eclipse masks, which was an activity that was kind of started by the Natural History Museum, and I think it's available online. It's a really cool activity. Basically, you have the solar protection film, and it's behind like a mask that comes in different designs. So there's coyotes, butterflies, rabbits, bears, kind of anything you want, as long as it's appropriate. And so the eyes of that mask are the solar protection film. And so it's a really great activity for all ages, but mainly kids, to participate in. And that's something that they can take home too. So it's something that they're gonna share with, maybe their friends when they get home or something. So it's something pretty simple that they can participate in and really feel like they experienced this eclipse in their own style. And then, we're also having presentations from NASA scientists. And slideshows and presentations are always a great time to ask kind of those provoking questions. And it can also be an opportunity to ask the audience to reflect about maybe what they've seen, if they saw the live stream of the eclipse, or just something that they've learned from the presentation. And then again, positive and personal. You want to keep a positive attitude, even though you might be saying the same thing 100 times in that day. This is their first time experiencing it at your site. So, and I, as a ranger, people are always coming up to me and asking me questions and wanting to just talk to you. So that's another way that you can make that positive and personal connection, is just taking the time to talk to your visitors about it. I think it means a lot to them. And then I really love this picture because I think it incorporates all of the elements of what's called 21st century interpretation. So it's investigative. You can see the little girl looking through a magnifying glass at, I think they're acorns. They're investigating something in the natural world. And they're all participating. It's participatory. And then it's collaborative too, because they're all working together to kind of learn something new. And they're all kind of working as a team. And it's skills focused. They're using their, maybe identifying or classifying skills, investigatory skills, to learn something new. And so this picture is really kind of exemplifies what interpretation is. And I really like this quote by Benjamin Franklin: "Tell me and I forget, teach me and I remember, involve me and I learn." And that's really what we're aiming for, is the involvement or the engagement part with our audience. So every site has a story in their resources. And so, there's like 3 elements of this. There's inform, entertain, and enlighten. And inform, it's okay to explain to people what they're seeing, because they're going to want to know. But you want to not just tell them quick facts or things that they're going to forget. You want to inform them in a way that inspires them to learn more. And then I've got a couple of quotes in here about, Tilden is talking about original objects, firsthand experience, illustrative media. And we can have all those things during an eclipse, which goes into entertain. The firsthand experience is entertaining by itself, and it's something that everyone at your site can enjoy. So watching the eclipse, or even watching it on a live stream, that being there during the eclipse, even if you're watching it on a screen, that's your firsthand experience. And so that's the entertainment right there. And then you want to ask, how can your site supplement that experience? Maybe it is through original objects, or maybe it's through illustrative media. So, examples might include, like, I think NASA's bringing moon rocks to petroglyph. So being able to touch something tangible always kind of brings it to life for a lot of visitors. And something else that we're doing is the mask craft. And there's science experiments you can do, presentations, demonstrations. There's a lot in there that you can prepare for your site, including maybe some fun facts. It could be as easy as that. And then enlightenment is the last one. And to me, it's different from inform, because it has kind of a lasting effect. When you feel enlightened, you feel differently. And so I really like this quote. Interpretation is the helping of the visitor to feel something that the interpreter feels, a sensitivity to beauty, complexity, variety, interrelatedness of the environment, a sense of wonder, a desire to know. It should help the visitor feel at home in the environment. It should help the visitor develop perception. So these are kind of goals, really, for how your visitor should feel after this experience at your site. So petroglyph story in the resource. So a little bit about us. We are home to over 20,000 rock carvings, and they depict lots of different things, images and symbols. Some are easy to identify, like birds or animals, and others are harder to kind of put one name to. So some petroglyphs, like the one on the left, the supernova petroglyph, is believed to be the supernova from 1054. And we have other petroglyphs in the park, also believed to be celestial bodies like stars, the sun, just kind of other things that they may be observed throughout time. And so to me, a petroglyph like this tells that age-old story of humans' inherent or innate curiosity with the sky. And to record, something significant. This was something huge, something different in their night sky, and it was recorded in a petroglyph. So that's something very unique to our site, and we will probably talk about the petroglyph at Chaco Canyon too. It's not found here, but it's something that kind of ties this place together. It might even be the same group of people that are, recording these things. And so it's just really important to think about what's important or what's unique to your site that you can incorporate in interpreting the eclipse. And so finally, you want to think about what are your visitors walking away with? So you've got the tangible, the solar glasses, the viewers, the masks, maybe your site's merchandise if you have your store open, so maybe some postcards, and then of course those photographs. And then the intangible, making those positive memories and connections, new information, knowledge, and experience about the eclipse. And finally, you hope that they have the desire to learn more. You might be sparking interest in the next NASA scientist or the next park ranger. You never know who you're talking to, and that's why you just want to make that positive and personal connection with people, because they're choosing to come to your site, and you want to provide them with something that they're going to learn from and take away from. And so that's all I have about ACE. If you guys have any questions, I think I saw a couple about the mask craft activity. Feel free to email me. That's the site's, Petroglyph's website up there. So I can kind of answer some questions if you'd like.
Thank you so much, Rachel. Yeah, feel free to unmute yourself and bring your cameras on and ask any questions you might have to Rachel while she's here. Or as she stated, if you would rather, you can just email her later or email me later about the series. So Rachel, when you think of eclipses, I have one for you. What do you think are those burning questions, those audience-centered engagement questions that really draw people to think about like what's happening?
That is a good question. I think, people are gonna kind of ask, what's happening? Why is this happening? Why does it only happen every few years or every 100 years? What's the difference here? And what's maybe, I think a lot of people are gonna come asking, what's the difference between an annular solar eclipse and a total? Or they might not even know that there is a difference, and it's our job to kind of explain or showcase why this one is different than the total. So I think people are gonna come in asking, what is this? What am I watching? And it might be very apparent to us, but maybe not to them. Um, so I think it's just it's gonna be a challenge, I think, even for me, to just take a step back and just say, well, what do you think? My high school teachers used to do that to me. They wouldn't give me a straight answer. So, and that's where I learned best. It's not where you get this factual information, the straight answer. It's when you have to kind of pause and think about it yourself, is where that real learning comes in, and where you can reflect on it and think, okay, well, I'm watching something dark covering the sun. It's only staying there for a couple minutes, and now it's going away. And that is kind of where then you have to ask the audience to think about what happened there.
Any other questions for Rachel?
And seeing one about the April 2024 total eclipse. How visible are eclipses if you are not directly in their line or trajectory? I'm in Massachusetts and trying to figure out if we should do something in April 24 or if we won't see anything. I don't know if I'm the best one to answer that question, but yeah, here in Albuquerque, we're not going to see the April 2024 eclipse.
You will not see a total eclipse, but you will see a significant partial eclipse. And that's pretty much true of anybody in the lower 48, is you'll have a good chunk of the sun that is covered by the moon. So always worth looking at, even if it's just a partial.
And also probably worth doing something at your site. We won't be in the path of totality, but we will probably be maybe like a stopping point for people that are coming to see it. They might stop in Albuquerque and say, okay, well, while we're here on our way to see the total eclipse, what can we see and do? And petroglyph might be on that list. And so what are we going to provide to the visitors that are going to an eclipse somewhere else, but that petroglyph is a stopping point along the way? We might provide free eclipse glasses so that they're already prepared. We might provide other kind of safety information, like, hey, if you're driving and the eclipse is happening, you're going to want to pull over, things like that.
Yes, please. Pull over. Thank you, Teresa, for sharing that link. She shared the NASA map for the eclipses. Excellent. Any last questions? Yeah, I've had some friends say that they're going to chase the eclipse. So if it's cloudy where they are, they're going to chase it. And I'm like, this seems crazy. You're going to run into it and then you're just going to like run off the road. But that's what they do. They're professionals, I guess, professional eclipse chasers. All right. Well, thank you everybody for being here today. Thank you, Rachel, again for presenting. Appreciate it. And I did put in there the link for our evaluation. Let me reshare that one more time. It just really helps us to keep this program going. And here it is one more time. It's about 1 minute long. Pretty much I've timed it, so I'm not lying to you. And yes, thank you all for being here. We'll have another one on the 28th. I believe it's the 28th. And that'll be more of a kind of come and join and just talk about any upcoming concerns or issues you might have in planning for the eclipses. And so it's just going to be a free-flowing conversation amongst all of us. We'll look forward to seeing you then. Take care.
Thank you so much.
Bye.